What would you say is the major game that's out right now? I guarantee you a lot of people's opinions would differ. Ever since Elden Ring, there hasn't been a standalone game title has controlled the market. Ever since, people have been waiting for the new Fortnite, Minecraft, or Roblox, but I mean, that game really hasn't come yet. Looking at the release date timeline, Elden Ring dropped back in 2022. I know, it's been a while, right? But only a couple months later, the accursed ChatGPT would release with its OpenAI features. Ever since an OpenAI released to the market, everything has been getting an AI. Hell, I'm pretty sure Walmart has an AI at this point. But with AI came deprivation of labor. One especially controversial use of AI is art. This is because every AI model runs on data. Not only does this steal artwork from creators, it negatively impacts the creative workflow that a lot of art projects have. When AI was introduced to the gaming industry, it definitely received a lot of this treatment as well. I'm not going to be naming any games, but some games used AI art for their assets, which definitely got some negative reception. However, I think in a lot of the isolated instances in which this has happened, AI hasn't been able to show its full potential. This video is not in defense of AI art or the ethicality of AI, but is rather going to give a more optimistic look on the use of AI and why it is so important to the gaming industry's future. I hope that with this video and the 3 major reasons that I've plotted throughout the video, that I can provide them a less biased stance against AI when they hear it as a buzzword. Game graphics have hit Moore's Law, which technically doesn't apply, but when you see game graphics today, nothing is like getting better. Of course, more and more effort is being put into the graphics, but none of it looks real. And of course, you have those types of games like Body Cam or Unrecorded that went semi-viral due to their attentive graphics. But both of those games put a limiter on their graphics that artificially make them look like body cams, so they don't have to account for all the visual stimuli you see in your day-to-day life. Well, here's where AI comes in. AI is trained off of real data. So everything you see when you layer AI filters on top of games is somewhat real, and that's why it looks such high quality. Of course, it is not only limited to very realistic graphics. AI filters allow you to change to any prompt you want. Perhaps you wanted to make it look like Lego or claymation, or really any stylistic choice you want, you can have it. Well, I mean, this all sounds great, right? Because mainly it's optional, so the developers that want to continue making their own things can, and developers who want this realistic style can use this as well, right? Well, there are definitely some barriers to entry. One, we haven't exactly hit the standard of where we can have cohesive AI on top of games. All AI filters are post-production. They cannot be pre-rendered, or really rendered in real time right now, mainly because all AI is outsourced. AI goes to the internet, goes to some super server, and then comes back to the computer. So that means there's insane latency, not to mention the latency just from the AI itself, but also creates problems like continuity. If someone wants an AI to project something 100% of the time, likely there will be slight variances in each of the attempts. Especially for storytelling, sometimes you need something to be very consistent 100% of the time. If an object's in a different place because the AI said it was going to be in a different place, then you're going to have a problem. However, by feeding it enough data of what you want, developers can audit their AIs to do exactly what they intended with their game. Manipulating this way also saves a lot of time. However, it would also allow people to put more quality into how they audit their AIs. They would be forced to make graphics to feed their AI with, because if they didn't, AI would become redundant. All the games would look the same, and no one would want to get it, because they know it's just AI slop content. This also allows developers to focus more on their gameplay mechanics, which are a lot more crucial to the gaming experience than how it looks. If you have a game that's really fun to play, but doesn't look great, you've just solved that problem in record time. Artistic talent is very hard to come by, but AI does not make it obsolete. Without artistic talent, AI has nothing to base itself off of. But it will change the status quo for how people produce graphics. If you're hoping for a timeline on this, let me put a video up of what we basically have right now.
Site is secure. We gotta hold the perimeter. Go. Push now, push!
A very funny controversy that came out at the beginning of this year was the 50 series for NVIDIA. I'm not into the PC building community, but when I heard that there were AI rendered frames, I knew it was kinda silly. Frame interpolation has been a thing for a while, but when you bring AI into the mix, you start to get refresh rates that basically go beyond the human need for FPS. And of course they're not real frames, but frames aren't even really that real when you think about it. Every frame is just a still screenshot of what your computer thinks is happening when it's rendering. Of course its main utility is for the extremely high graphics games, but with my last topic, it would seem that that problem might be solved in the upcoming future. AI real-time will basically become obsolete once that happens, when computers mainly focus towards AI processing. So what about AI rendering? Rendering requires a lot of complex steps. To fully optimize those steps, you need some complex model, like an AI. When you think of the future of games, you're probably thinking of I don't know, something like Ready Player One or Sword Art Online. Super complex worlds that's rendering a lot of things at once. But to be able to render such massive feats, the current processes that exist today just will not cut it. So AI rendering brings you to a point of not only having everything look hyper-realistic with graphics, but now having almost everything you could imagine rendered at once. When more platforms are released for gaming, this is a far future promise, but things like neural links, not only will you be able to experience it in real time, but the maximum quantity of things you can render will be massively improved. If you want a timeline on that, you're gonna have to ask anyone who's working on hypercolumnic research. AI chatbots that go beyond utility AIs start going into the realm of, dare I say, roleplay. In a strange surge of popularity, things like CAI have become very popular with demographics who like talking to their favorite characters. A lot of people would say this certainly poses a lot of social problems. I personally see otherwise. One very important use for these AI chatbots are NPCs, mainly limiting to games that are very open world. AI NPCs allow for interactions between any character you see in the world. Imagine GTA, except you could talk to anyone on the street, get to know them, establish a relationship with them. Seems very anti-social at first, but when it comes to story building games, it also gets you a lot more immersed. Imagine Elden Ring, but every character you could talk to, or that has been specifically done already is Skyrim. Although a very limited model, as they're not really changing any core aspects of the game, people have been able to incorporate AI into Skyrim in order to run simple processes like asking an NPC to follow you. But currently, that scope is very limited. The timeline for this is probably a lot sooner than a lot of people think. Currently, there are models for this to exist today, as long as someone actually utilizes them. However, running a game like that has a large operating expense. The reason you likely won't see any AI NPCs in upcoming From Software games, because it's an active, constant online service that they have to run. If they shut down that service, all NPCs lose functionality, and then the game becomes obsolete. A big solution that NVIDIA is working on right now is built-in AI models that can run all this stuff on your computer. If everything can run purely on your computer with instructions, then large companies don't need to worry about outsourcing all the data. The last financial risk that these companies would also have to take if they're doing this weird online platform is any lawsuits they could get because of the things that their NPCs say. I'll let you imagine what that could be. In terms of actual models, a very simple model that would work for almost any NPC is basically categorizing an AI to certain emotions. Let's say you're interacting with an NPC on the street. If you say a specific word in a specific order or in a specific connotation, it can increase a meter of one of the AIs. The AI keeps track of this meter, and as long as they don't lose continuity, it'll influence how they respond to things. If you threaten them, they're going to be more hostile. Think about like relationship bars in video games. AIs have already demonstrated that they are capable of this, and now it's just a matter of time until a big company actually uses this idea. The future of gaming is a promise that I don't want to shill to people because I don't know how long it's going to take for all these features to come out. The internet was very AI crazy and still kind of is because no one really knew what AI was and it kind of came out of nowhere. One person dropped an AI model, everybody cloned it, and now you see it everywhere. Just because it has its positives doesn't mean that there are real concerns that come with AI. And of course you get really excited that, ooh, quantum computers are going to come out and maybe even supercharge AI. But in the end, the people who actually control these models are taking their sweet time. Because by regulating these models, they are making money slowly and gradually, being basically a monopoly. Unfortunately, your full dive experience is not around the corner. I see decades passing before we see a game of that caliber. The real question is what game is going to come next. But for games of those calibers to come out, we can't blindly sit here and hate on people for trying to optimize the workflow. Just because something is AI doesn't make it intrinsically bad. But just because it's convenient doesn't make it entirely good. Finding an unbiased middle ground is basically the perfect solution to this. I've been wanting to make a future of gaming video for quite a while. Luckily, AI gave me this outlet to do so. I hope this video was somewhat informational to anybody who's watching this, and hope developers the best with their future endeavors. The last thing I wanted to give my thoughts on before I go was AI game generators like Oasis, or I think like Activision's doing something, I don't know. I'll put a video on screen right now. Honestly, I don't think that's going to be the future of gaming. It is entirely possible, but linkage with multiplayer is going to be a big concern, and I think it's going to be more of a novelty than a real model. Till next time.